NBA teams are expected to be competitive, and the thing that we call tanking is something that defeats the purpose of winning altogether. But what can you actually expect small market teams to do when they often have to outsmart the system itself that the NBA has created in order for them to win long term? Because although the lottery odds have been reformatted a couple of years ago to encourage winning, the thing is, losing teams will still have the advantage when it comes to getting better picks in the draft year after year. Because big market teams will always have the advantage in terms of running free agency, and lately, superstar players have also gained control of the trade market. And so in today's NBA, it's not really that surprising to see a small market franchise like the OKC Thunder choosing to utilize draft assets in order to build its team's future. And so far, no other front office executive has been better at collecting draft capital than OKC General Manager Sam Presti, who has acquired an unprecedented 34 draft picks in the next 7 years. Well, I'm definitely not a fan of tanking, but if you're a Thunder fan like me, you gotta be happy with how this season has played out. I mean, however it may have turned out, the Thunder have secured some great odds in terms of landing a potential top 5 pick in the top-heavy 2021 NBA draft. And a combination of that, together with the rest of the team's future draft assets, together with strong internal development, I think will ultimately decide how long this franchise will be in rebuild mode. So what's good, guys? It's Rero Balls here, and today we'll look into what the Thunder's stockpile of draft picks really mean for the team's future. And I mean, should we really buy into the idea that the Thunder would have to wait for years and years to be competitive again when they already have a potential future all-star in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and a collection of other young players with super high potential? But before we move on, please make sure to hit that like button if you happen to enjoy this video, because it definitely helps the channel grow. It only takes a second of your time, but it will be much appreciated. So let's get to it. The OKC Thunder have just won the tiebreaker with the Cleveland Cavaliers to land the 4th best odds in the 2021 draft lottery. Overall, OKC has a 12.5% chance of getting the number 1 pick, a 45.2% chance of landing a top 4 pick, and also a 47.9% chance of landing Houston's top 5 pick, which could potentially give the Thunder 2 top 5 selections in the draft. Well, that's the best case scenario, but the thing is, you can just really never be sure in the draft. I mean, yeah, it's good to have favorable odds, but the thing is, it's still a lottery. Because if you look at it, in 2019, out of the top 5 teams who had the best draft odds, only 3 of them actually ended up with a top 3 pick. And ultimately, it was the New Orleans Pelicans who ended up with a top overall selection despite only having a 6% chance to do so. And also in the 2020 NBA draft, although teams like the Warriors, the Cavs, and the Timberwolves, who had the 3 best odds in the lottery, ended up picking somewhere within the top 5, who would have thought that the Charlotte Hornets, who only had the 8th best odds in the draft, actually ended up with the 3rd overall selection despite only having a 6.7% chance to do so. So if you're going to base it on probability alone, the Thunder may even see their pick landing as low as the 6th spot because they actually have a relatively high 27.1% chance to land in that position. And so if any, I think OKC just has to be really prepared in terms of scouting and just finding the best players available. Well, of course, landing 1 or 2 of Cade Cunningham, Evan Mobley, Jalen Suggs, Jalen Green, or Jonathan Kuminga would be a game changer, and that would definitely change the team's trajectory altogether. But to be real, there's still a lot of great talent beyond those guys which the team can explore if ever they fail to grab a top 5 selection. You'll still probably have guys like Moses Moody or even international prospects like Josh Giddey or Alperen Sengun available. And who knows, with OKC's stockpile of draft assets, there's also the possibility that they can package a pick or 2 together with a young player in order to move up in the draft, but that would depend on Sam Presti, of course. But the thing is, we just can't really predict what will happen in the draft because there are just too many possibilities. But I think what's really good is that the Thunder can always focus on selecting the best player available and not the one who would necessarily fit the roster the most, considering that the team already has a good young core in place. And this core has a good number of guys who can play multiple positions and who have versatile skill sets as well, which gives the team more room for error in terms of a roster building standpoint. Well, first, there's the team's emerging young star Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who despite playing only 35 games this season, has shown that his franchise player material. SGA has put up 23.7 points, almost 5 rebounds, and almost 6 assists in year number 3, while doing it with 51, 41, and 81% shooting splits, which are actually ridiculous numbers for a 22-year-old who has been constantly the sole target of defenses on his team throughout the year. Overall, Shai has taken a big leap this season as he has increased his points per game average by 4.7 points, his field goal percentage by 3.7%, and his his 3-point percentage by a whopping 7%. And I think the real mark of a budding NBA star can be seen with a player's ability to create his own shot and his ability to make those shots efficiently. And SGA's shot creation has been elite, as the 15.7 points per game that he has produced on self-created field goals this season ranks second in the entire NBA, only behind Luka Doncic. And the crazy part is, only 7.3% of his total field goals made around the basket have been assisted by teammates, which is actually the lowest rate among all players who have made at least 40 field goals at the rim this season. And basically, all of this are because of Shai's strong shot creating ability and elite driving game. Ultimately, Shai has led the league in 2020 to 2021 with 25.2 drives per game, while averaging 5.2 field goals per game and shooting 55.4% out of those drives. And actually, Shai's driving rate is also the highest rate ever registered by any player in a season since driving stats were tracked back in 2013, and it's even higher than Russell Westbrook's 20.8 drives per game during the 2019 to 2020 season, which ranks second to Shai's rim attacking numbers. So as suggested by the stats, Shai's offensive arsenal is already at a high level for a 22-year-old. I mean, this guy stands 6'6" and he has a 6'10" wingspan, and that, paired with his ability to use his balance to elude his defenders when he's dribbling through space, just allows him to get to the rim and finish with ease using almost any angle that he chooses. And during his third season, Shai has also gotten better in terms of hitting a step back jumper, whether from mid-range or from behind the arc. Overall, SGA shot a career best 41.8% from deep this year, despite increasing his number of outside attempts at the same time. Also, his playmaking ability has been consistently improving. He only averaged 5.9 assists for the season, but has been one of only 14 players in the league whose teammates have attempted at least 8.5 shots on both 2-point and 3-point range coming from his passes, joining CP3, Damian Lillard, James Harden, Ben Simmons, and Luka Doncic in that category. And this basically means that he's on his way to becoming an elite type of playmaker because the numbers show that he knows how to distribute the ball and he gets his teammates shots at a high rate as well. So I think it's not hard to imagine Shai averaging at least 8 assists a game once he's surrounded with better shooters, plain and simple. And speaking of shooters, one of those guys in the roster who has taken the leap in terms of his shooting and his overall scoring is Luguentz Dort. The undrafted second-year player already looks like a future defensive player of the year, but has definitely been making strides in his offense as well. This year, he's upped his scoring average from 6.8 to 14 points a game, and his 3-point shooting average has also increased from a poor 29.7% in his rookie season to a respectable 34.3% this year. I mean, this season has been sort of a breakout year for Dort. He's hit a game-winning 3 against the Spurs, he's had a 42-point all-around game against the Jazz, and overall has been showing his improvements on the offensive side of the ball while still staying true to his defensive identity. I mean, this season, Donovan Mitchell has been shooting 35.7%, Damian Lillard has been shooting 40%, and even Kawhi Leonard has been shooting 43% whenever they were defended by Dort. And you can just see that the sophomore player is one of the most fundamentally sound multi-positional defenders in the NBA today who can guard almost anyone from the likes of James Harden up to someone like LeBron James and really make an impact while doing it. But I think what sets Dort apart from all other lockdown defenders in the league is that he doesn't hesitate in terms of creating his own shot, and he has already shown promise as a guard who can score in high volume. And I mean, if he can just become more efficient offensively while still maintaining his relentless defensive habits, then no question, Lu Dort will be one of the best two-way players in the league in the future. Well, I don't want to spend too much time on breaking down all the other pieces of OKC's young core, and I'll just save that for another video, but let me just take some time to talk about 7-foot rookie Aleksej Pokusevski, who has been and is still being doubted by a lot of people due to his poor play during his rookie season, despite him being one of the guys with the highest upsides in the entire roster and the entire league in my opinion. I mean, Poku is literally the youngest player in the NBA today, but I think he has such a unique skill set for a legit 7-footer that makes him so hard to ignore. While the guy can handle and distribute the ball like a point guard, he can move just as good as any 6'7" perimeter player out there, and basically he can just score in a lot of ways. And since coming to OKC, you can just see that the team has been continuously allowing him to explore his game with the ball in his hands. Per NBA advanced statistics, Poku has finished the season with 29.5% of his possessions as the ball handler in pick and roll sets, and I think that's exactly what the team wants him to be in the long run. They want him to be a 7-footer who can be a primary ball handler because of his elite court vision and passing ability, but also someone who can play off the ball while shooting in motion, because honestly, how many 7-footers in the league can actually do that for real? But to be honest, Poku's numbers aren't really outstanding or anything. He's only averaged 8.2 points, less than 5 rebounds, and 2 assists in his rookie year, while also having subpar shooting percentages. But remember, this is the same guy who averaged 14.5 points on 45% shooting from the field and 48% from deep during his last 5 regular season games. And he's also the same guy who set the Thunder franchise rookie record as he hit 7 3-point shots in a single game. So basically, this guy still has a long way to go in terms of becoming a polished primary scoring option, but he definitely has already shown flashes of having a unique shot making and passing ability, which are definitely rare abilities to have for a 7-foot guy. And if you look at it, his 3.4 shot blocking percentage also ranks in the 95th percentile among all NBA forwards this season, all thanks to his solid timing and his 7'3" wingspan. And so based on the numbers and even the eye test, Poku already projects to be a player with elite interior defender type of potential, and that together with his size and his unique shot making and playmaking profile makes him one heck of an exciting player to see develop. Well, aside from those guys, this OKC roster is stacked with other potent young pieces. You still got Moses Brown, who has legitimate franchise center type of potential. You got Darius Bazley and Isaiah Roby, who are as versatile as any modern day NBA forward out there. There's Theo Maledon, who's another budding young point guard who I think is one of the biggest steals in the 2020 NBA draft. And there's Kenrich Williams, who shows a lot of promise as an all-around type of glue guy on the court. So overall, the Thunder just have a lot of options moving forward, but I think this OKC team can at the very least develop just as the current Memphis Grizzlies squad has developed. While after the grit and grind era, the Grizzlies missed the playoffs for only 3 seasons, and right now, you can officially say that they have completed their rebuild and they're back to becoming competitive once again. I mean, that Memphis team acquired Jaren Jackson and Ja Morant in consecutive drafts, they traded Marc Gasol and Mike Conley in back-to-back years as well, and they hired a great coach in the process. While they didn't land or trade for a superstar for them to be good again this quick, how the Grizzlies have come back into being competitive is just really a combination of using savvy front office moves, having some draft luck, and utilizing great player development as well. But the Thunder have a chance to become something better. The team owns an unprecedented number of draft assets and a solid young core who I think can play competitively as early as next season, and for all we know, it may be only a matter of time before Presti pulls the trigger and uses some of these picks or some of these young players to trade for a disgruntled superstar who could help the Thunder get back into the playoffs or even back to being championship contenders the quickest time possible. But for now, OKC has got to take it one step at a time and focus on this upcoming NBA draft, because who knows, the team just might land in the top 3, they just might land a really solid type of player, and we've seen it too many times before. It only takes one great player to change a franchise's future. And when you put that kind of player in this OKC team, which already has a solid young core and a lot of future assets in place, then the NBA just might witness the quickest and most efficient rebuild in history. So, what's your take on the Thunder's rebuild? Feel free to share your thoughts in the comment section below. Again, this is Rero Balls, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.